Okay. It's time for another award-winning show. And we're missing. Where is he? Yeah, he's gone. Okay. Brian's trying to get himself into a seat there. All right. You were better off before. You didn't. Just slimmer yourself over. Let's see what you look like real quick. There you are. Okay, good. You made it. All right. So tonight, we got a really good guest coming up. Rebecca Terrell with the John Birch Society. They put out a documentary, and it's about the CO2 pipelines. These pipelines that they want to straddle through Iowa and South Dakota and you name it. So out there in the Midwest, and they carry this CO2. And the problem with the CO2 is that when it explodes, I mean, it does a number on you. I'm going to show you something here real quick. When these things explode, that's what you get. That's what you're getting when they explode. You're getting that CO2 coming out of there. It's kind of coming out of there like a liquid almost. And it just goes all throughout the land, and it's poisonous. You inhale that, you get close to that, and you inhale it, you're gone. All right, so she's going to be talking about that because I think under the Biden regime, that was going to be a big green project, taking these huge CO2 pipelines all through the Midwest. And
is that where they're capturing the CO2 from factories?
Right,
in the Midwest.
Yeah, they'll be captured from some factories and stuff, and they also, so before it goes up that smokestack, they'll, through a very complicated and expensive process, they'll take the CO2 out so that darn stuff doesn't go up into the atmosphere. But what do you do with it? Well, then you have to have this very complex system of pipes and everything to push it through, and the pressure is 2,500 pounds per square inch. All right, your tire on your car is about 35 pounds per square inch. This is 2,500 pounds per square inch going through these long pipes that are hundreds and hundreds of miles long. And then once they break, because probably every individual pipe is like 50 feet long, so if they break somewhere, you have that. And if you're out in the boonies, because there's a lot of prairie land out there, it could go on for weeks. Okay, so it is just an absolute disaster. And I got to think that they're going to curtail that under Trump. I can't believe that Trump would even be putting that through anymore. Under Biden, yes. Without a doubt.
Again, I'm not a scientist, but CO2, don't the trees, take the CO2 and convert it to oxygen, if I remember my science correct?
That poisonous gas that the trees inhale, and then the trees exhale that oxygen that we need. We'll get into the whole thing with her because it's a complicated process. They're putting out a documentary now. The John Birch Society is putting out a documentary coming out in April and with all the problems that's going on here. But we'll hear firsthand from her. We're going to ask her all those questions. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, the John Birch Society does great. They do great work. I mean, they have been vilified over the years, but that's only because of the communists that want to spread lies and misinformation. But John Birch Society does a great job.
Yeah, John Birch
exposing
Society.
What's going on.
Absolutely, they are fantastic. Now, I got a few stories. We're going to hash through a few stories here. One of them is with Chuck Schumer. Now, if you recall with Chuck Schumer, a lot of Democrats don't like him anymore. Okay? And the MSNBC host, Simone Sanders Townsend, said that she is outraged with what Chuck Schumer did. And that, what he did? He was, she says, well, first of all, she says she wants to be an independent. And what Schumer did was he supported the Republican government funding bill. And that passed 54-46. But a lot of people hate Schumer, the Democrats at least, because of what he did.
Mm-hmm.
voting for that. Okay, so this MSNBC host, that's Kamala Harris right there. It's not the MSNBC host. I don't have a picture of the MSNBC host. I don't know who she is. I don't care who she is. But yeah, she's going to become an independent now because Chuck Schumer just drove her over the deep end. Here's what I wanted to say about this picture here, though. If you had to guess who right now is the leader of the Democratic Party, more so than anybody else, who would you pick?
My guess?
Yeah.
Well, they're pushing Bernie Sanders again, and now AOC. I can't believe that they would push AOC on us.
Yeah, well, I've heard
that young lady didn't even know what
this.
a garbage disposal was.
Well, the thing with AOC is she was a bartender. Okay, before she got into politics.
Nothing wrong with bartending.
Nothing wrong with bartending, but I mean, she didn't own the bar or anything. She just was a bartender, a barmaid, whatever. Going around, hey, you want a beer? You want a Bud Light? You want, what do you want? And working off tips. So somehow she got into the legislature. She became a congresswoman. God bless her for that. I'm not saying, but I'm saying
is this country great or what?
She's there
Joe,
going
really?
after Musk, saying that Musk doesn't know anything. That the guy shouldn't be doing anything. Musk has got hundreds of billions of dollars. He's got some of the most. Yeah. His companies, they're the most profitable of anyone. She has no experience. Okay, but the reason I want to bring this up is because this is some recent polling, and it's going to go against a little bit what you were saying, but this recent polling shows that Kamala Harris leads the pack with 17%.
That's great. I think they should
that is
run her
that
again,
is awesome for us. Schumer at 16. Yeah. They even have Barack Obama in there at 15%. Hakeem Jeffries 11%. No one is at 11%.
It's good. Yeah, that's that would be good.
AOC's
That'd be good in the debate.
Yeah, yeah, right. You just have an empty chair sitting there, and that empty chair probably would have been better for them than that sitting Joe Biden.
Clint Eastwood. I think years back, Clint Eastwood debated an empty chair. If I remember.
Did he? Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Now it's embarrassing if you get beat by an empty chair. That's very embarrassing. But if you can defeat an empty chair, you pretty have a good chance of defeating any of the Democratic Party. But it's just so hilarious. I mean, it's just.
Can
so
you imagine
hilarious.
what the donors of the Democratic Party are saying now? How many millions do you want me to spend on this lineup?
Yeah,
really?
Who do you give the money to? I mean, Pelosi's down to 3%. Tampon Tim is at 2%. Gavin Newsom doesn't register. Maybe 1%. Don't know. That's a good one. They don't know. That's at 4%.
Newsom couldn't even beat the no one or the.
So a don't know tied with Joe Biden at 4%.
They shouldn't even be, mentioning Joe Biden at all in the polls. That couldn't have been a legitimate poll.
I know. What the heck is that all about? But I've heard some rumors that Joe Biden might try to run again. That would be hilarious. Okay, something. I got a few other stories here. This one. Oh, here's a good one. We all probably can recognize this guy. So, the British people have just named President Donald Trump as the worst thing to ever come out of America in a new poll they did. The worst thing.
I think we should increase the tariffs on anything coming out of Great Britain.
Once Trump gets hold of
Prince
that,
Charles,
the tariffs are going even
Prince
higher.
Charles should stay up in his castle in Scotland. Prince Charles should do that. He should not come out in public.
All right, a couple other things I want to talk about and just show I thought was kind of interesting. This
Well,
right here.
It's not. I'm sorry, I was wrong. It's not Prince Charles. It's now King Charles. Yeah, he was promoted.
He was promoted, huh? He's the king.
Yes, when his mother died.
He is now the king. He's the big enchilada. All right, Elon Musk here. Here's something too. Talk about double standards, okay? So Elon Musk is saying, this is off X, he says, first of all, there's no cuts to Medicaid, Social Security, or other entitlements unless stopping fraud is a cut. All right. And he said, secondly, organizing a campaign to call for the death of someone is illegal. The organizers and funders will be found and prosecuted. So these guys, I mean, if you look at this video here, this is in New York, Manhattan. They're just laying on the streets and stuff like that. All these people, they're telling with the signs, a lot of the signs are saying that we want Musk dead. Now, you tell me, if the Republicans did something like that to Joe Biden or someone along those lines, it'd probably be a double standard. I don't think they would be speaking very highly of it. But, it's just that is such a weird double standard when you think about it. That the Democrats, and secondly, like Musk was saying, he's not cutting entitlements to people at all. He's not cutting any entitlements. He's cutting the fraud, the waste, the abuse, all that junk. That's what they're slicing out of it. The amount of waste in Medicaid is, through the roof. It's reach all the way to the moon. Basically, it's just so crazy. I mean,
if the mainstream media was doing their job and being truthful in their reporting, they'd be calling all these people out. But, we all know that the mainstream media, or the legacy media, whatever you want to call them, they're being replaced. They're being replaced by local podcasts and local newspapers, smaller newspapers. I think their days of influence are over.
Well, the ratings have really sunk big time when we get into legacy.
Hey, did I hear Jonathan there?
Yeah, I think Jonathan joined us. Let me double
check.
Jonathan. Oh, there he is. How you doing?
Hey, so here's something. I posted this a couple days ago on social media. I found it on Rise of the New Media, and that is it's pretty funny. I got a lot of great responses to this. Did anybody have unhinged Democrats desperate to protect massive fraud? Doge is uncovering, sicking their NGO rent-a-mobs on Tesla cars on your 2025 bingo card. I know I didn't.
Yeah,
it's a fun post.
Yeah, that is good. I mean, here's a picture of Schumer. I was just saying that MSNBC host is so ticked off at Schumer that she's going to be a Democrat. She's going to become an independent. She's not going to be a Democrat anymore. Okay. Let's look at this for a second, Kent.
Wait a minute, before you go to Tesla, Jonathan, what do you think about these people that are, keying the Teslas and thousands of dollars worth of damage? They don't realize that the Tesla has cameras that record them.
Well, I think the camera thing is spectacular. I love the fact that all these people are getting caught. And then if you're on X, I know I keep mentioning X because I find it's just such an invaluable news source. It's way better than any media outlet, and it's instantaneous. You can get so much info. But there are profiles on X, like Libs of TikTok and a few others. Anytime the video is released of these people damaging Tesla cars, they post it, like they send out a post on X saying, hey, let's make these people famous. And within a couple of hours, you'll have a couple million views. And then poof, lo and behold, somebody's sad and upset looking and arrested, and they're holding up the placard facing years in jail and fines and all that stuff. But here's another post that I think is funny. I grabbed it from somebody else's profile and shared it on mine. It's this image of you've probably seen it if you're involved at all or interested in the meme wars. It's Lisa Simpson from the TV show The Simpsons standing on a stage with a sign behind her, and people just keep changing what the sign actually says. But in this one, it says clearly, if you're the one, if you're the one drawing swastikas on other people's cars, Elon Musk isn't the problem, you are. It's a great message. It's so true. These people have become unhinged, and it's maddening and mystifying. What was it, 6 months ago? All these people were telling us that we had to buy Tesla cars because we were going to save the planet by going to battery-powered cars. And now all of a sudden they're attacking the same cars that were telling us we needed to buy. 6 months ago.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's what I was referring to here, real quick. I showed this a minute ago, but they are actually protesting in New York in front of a Tesla dealership. Okay, and they're saying "death to Elon." A lot of the signs are "death to Musk," "death to Elon." But of course, they're saying that what he's doing is he's chopping out Medicaid. It's going to be killing all. But look at all these people. They have nothing better to do with their time, and I think they're all paid. I think these people just get paid to sit around because all those signs look exactly the same, right? So somebody was handing out all those signs. They just sit around. They get paid to do this. This is how the Democrats operate. And they're protesting in front of a Tesla dealership. I mean, give me a break. This is so ridiculous. But when you look at what Musk had said, he said there's no cuts to Medicaid, Social Security, or other entitlements. He says, unless stopping fraud is considered a cut. And I like that. And then he also goes on to say that organizing a campaign to call for the death of someone is illegal, and the organizers and funders will be found and prosecuted. So, yeah, it's definitely an organized group that's doing this. These people just didn't decide to come out and all make the same sign and lay down in the street and protest Tesla. It's ridiculous, but...
Well, I think all of the Maxine Waters, she was calling for really violence. And I'm just shocked that that can go on because if Jim Jordan called for that, I mean, he'd be swatted and hauled off to jail.
Yeah.
But he just, we just don't take that approach. And they do, but they get away with it.
Well, the maddening thing about that crowd is we're not taking the time yet to track those people down and hold them accountable. Haul them in front of a judge. The thing that's come out in the last couple of big protest rally things like that, and there was one actually, what was it? Within the last couple of weeks, it was Tim Walz and AOC or something. There was some combination of nitwit leftists met up somewhere and had a rally. And they were saying that there were 30,000 people showed up for the rally or something. But there are some sleuths out there that can track your cell phone data, and they keep reporting on these protests. And something like, I don't remember the exact numbers, but something like 80 or 85% of the people that were at that supposed rally for whoever it was, AOC and Tim Walz, I think, north of 80% of them had been at 10 or more other types of protests, including Antifa, BLM riots, all those kinds of things. And
so it's the same people. Same people coming.
It's exactly this. Much. So it seems to me we're able to prove that it's the same people, and apparently we're able to access cell phone data from large groups like that off of the network. So why in the heck aren't we tracking them down and holding them accountable?
And they're getting paid too. They're getting paid to do that, to do all that nonsense and stuff, to show up at these rallies. Nobody cared about Tim Walz. Okay, him and Kamala Harris, they were horrible candidates. I mean, thank God those two ran. I hope they run again. And you throw AOC in there. It's just not really going to go anywhere. But all of a sudden, they're getting 30,000 people. Yeah, right. These people are being bussed in, and they're the same people, and they're being paid to do that.
Yep.
Let's see here for a second.
Do you notice Gavin Newsom trying to move to the center with all the issues now? Yeah. He's trying to move to the center.
After they burned down L.A., after it's just burned to a crisp, how can that guy still be governor? Yeah, that's crazy.
L.A.'s bad, but the whole state is bad. The whole state of California has just gone horribly wrong. They've lost so much revenue, so many people, so many businesses, and there are these homeless encampments and all these endless, decade or more of all these things. If you follow, I'll tell you what, if you are online, and especially in Northeast Ohio in the Cleveland area, if you follow Khalid Namar, Khalid has been commenting for a while now on that high-speed rail. What a debacle. There's supposed to be, and again, this is one of those that I know a little bit about and maybe off on the dates, but the gist of it is that California Governor Gavin Newsom promised some sort of high-speed rail between two major cities in California around 10 years ago and said it was going to cost something like $2 billion. Now the estimates are up to something like $6 billion. None of it's been built, I don't think, but somehow $1.5 billion of it has been spent on nobody knows what. And so there are projects like that all over California where they've been talking about building new high-rise towers to house the homeless in the LA area. Still, I think nothing's been built. Money keeps flowing in, nothing gets done. And the fact that these people hold on to power is awful.
Yeah, it's very scary. Yeah, it's mystifying and very.
Yeah, look what
very,
they've
very
done
scary.
to San Francisco as a city. San Francisco used to be one of the most beautiful cities, in the United States. No, I haven't heard of anyone now saying, I'm going to take my vacation in San Francisco. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, it's been trashed.
Because of what they've done.
Been trashed, and a lot of immigrants and all that. They've trashed it.
But they could rather go to Havana.
Tell us about these.
Yeah, let's make
ahead and,
the Great Lakes
squeeze
great
this
again
in
with changing Lake Erie to Lake Ohio. But
Now, Vivek
you can definitely
Ramaswamy. By the way, it's Vivek, if anybody cares. Vivek Ramaswamy.
Vivek, yes, Vivek.
But anyhow, I think we came up with Lake Ohio before anybody, and then it caught on pretty quick. Ramaswamy Tsunami, that's another one that might catch on. And that's from us. That's an original from us. You're going to get that hoodie.
Yep. Right at ohiopoliticalnews.com. If you want to then go to shop, and you can go there, and then also you can support us. You can support us in a lot of ways. We can also now take stars on Facebook. Make sure when you go over to our live streams or any posts over on Facebook to give us a star. We're going to try to, at least our goal is going to start at 500 stars by the end of the the month is going to start in a day or two, but we're going to start for April and see if we can get 500 stars over on Facebook. You can also do a Rumble rant. It's a little green $sign down in the chat. Please give us a Rumble rant or chat we are appreciative of that. And if you want to advertise on Ohio Political News, please let us know, and you can reach us with Joe at ohiopoliticalnews.com or Kent at ohiopoliticalnews.com. Please let us know you've seen this weekend. Brian was out all over the place live streaming, and we're going to be doing a lot more live streaming in the next, as the weather breaks and everything's going on. I know there's a lot of talk about property taxes and everything else, but we'll be covering that. But please support us and also, be a sponsor so we can share what you're doing. And if you're interested in coming on the show, you can also reach us then for interviews or anything that you're doing out in Ohio.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think
that's very good. That's a good point. Okay, so Joe at ohiopoliticalnews.com, Kent at ohiopoliticalnews.com. So that's how they can get a hold of us directly, to go right into our inbox here, and we'll be able to see it. So if somebody is out there that, if you'd like to be on the show, we'd love to have you on the show. So if you got something political, it's got to be political, though, we sometimes veer off a little bit. We've got Rebecca Terrell coming on at 8 o'clock from the John Birch Society, and we'll be talking about those CO2 pipelines. So, and that's kind of political. I think it is very political. So, but this is Ohio Political News. But if you want to be on the show and you got something you want to tell, and we want to hear about it, okay, so we want to get you on the show. So please reach out to us. And again, Rebecca Terrell coming on at 8 o'clock or so. I do want to mention one other thing here with Ohio, and that is the Medicaid. Okay, so they put there's a law now, a bill in effect where you're going to have to work 22 hours and you're going to have to show ID. The bill is to show ID if you want Medicaid. Now, I would have thought that would already have been in place. I don't know a whole lot about Medicaid, but I know even in Ohio, it is the subject of probably the most fraud and waste and abuse in our budget, in our state budget. And I'm sure that's the same thing when you get to the federal budget as well, Medicaid. So, and then a work requirement. They're actually going to, if you're healthy and you're under the age of 55, you have to work 22 hours a week. Okay. Which doesn't sound like it's asking for a lot. If you're healthy and you're under the age of 55, get out and work 22 hours a week to get your Medicaid. I think that's just makes a whole lot of sense. Here's something else. We look at the budget. Mark Bakita, I saw this on X, and he's got the Grassroots Freedom Initiative. But what's interesting here is the budget right now is sitting at, what, $90 billion or something here in Ohio. And next year, they're trying to get it in at about $110 billion, trying to get it in at about $110 billion budget for next year. So that ought to scare the you-know-what's out of you. That's crazy, okay? That's in Ohio. That's the state of Ohio that just lost 3 electoral votes, in the last, 10, 15 years or something like that.
Yeah, did Mark say where the money, extra money was coming from, to get to $100 billion, an extra $10 billion? Was that coming from the people in Ohio, or was that more federal money? The money's got to come from somewhere. Right?
That's a good question. How is it? Yeah, that's a very good question. How is it that our state budget can continually get bigger every single year? Now, that $110 billion they're talking about is for 1 year. Now, I know that's part of the federal too. It's the federal and the state, but that is a massive amount of money, $110 billion. But you're right. It's going from 95 to maybe 110. How are they getting this extra billions? Is it all federal money? Or
what I laugh about when I hear a state rep said, we have a balanced budget. Well, they had a balanced budget at $90 million. Now they're going to have a balanced budget at $110 billion. That just means they've spent more money, but it's balanced. No one ever thinks about, maybe we should reduce some of the taxation to the Ohio taxpayers so that they can keep the money. It's government growth in the state of Ohio and at the local level too. I'll say it again: we're out. Public government is outgrowing the private sector's ability to pay for the services.
And it will continue to do that because just the government, by its very nature, they don't care how much we suffer. They just got to keep getting their cost of living increases, and they've got to keep growing their departments and their pensions and everything else. And it's always on the back.
I think if we had a Doge that took a look at Ohio EPA or the Department of Transportation or any of those large behemoths, you'd be shocked of what they could do and just eliminate it.
Ohio has a Doge.
We're going to talk about property taxes, but that's the elimination of property taxes is another big Doge coming.
Yeah, that'd be a huge Doge. As a matter of fact, we have coming up April 16th or whenever the second Sunday is in April, we're going to have Jennifer Gross on again. And
great!
She'll be talking about the budget and stuff like that. She wants to really settle in on property taxes a lot. I said, "What do you want to talk about in April?" She said, "Well, property taxes, okay, because it's just a big item at the State House right now." Now, she did say that don't expect them to do anything. Don't expect them to do anything. They're just gonna tweak the system a little here or there. But there is a lot of talk. People are talking about it everywhere. And if you get enough of the people involved that say, we're not putting up with this any longer. We want change. We need drastic, real change with the property taxes. That is what will happen. So I know
there's a connected problem there, Joe.
What's that?
There's a connected problem in that if we don't cut back spending, then if we were to, and that's a huge if we were to eliminate property tax, then we know that the existing government infrastructure would just find somewhere else to take it from. That brings us back to the whole Doge thing, and we need to be doing it. You started to mention there that there is a group within our state house that are acting in a Doge-like capacity. And I happen to know several of them and have very good respect for some of our representatives who were involved in that. However, at the end of the day, they are a political body and they're operating within the confines of, I think all of them are Republican, I have to assume. They're operating within the confines of our state house, and it's going to be probably impossible for them to actually affect meaningful, broad, sweeping change. So let me put that in context. At the federal level, we have this outsider, Elon Musk, who's coming in and evaluating everything. And they are able, through mandate, to slash costs, cut jobs, lay people off, offer buyout incentives to downsize government. That, when we talk about Doge, that's what we're talking about. And I mean, you can even go back to their very similar statements made by both Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, talking about how in order to downsize and scale government back, it's going to be briefly painful. We need to make some painful types of cuts to expense and spending. Well, they didn't really do it. But my point is, in Ohio, if you're asking people from within politics to scale back and make cuts, the blowback is going to be on them. And I think it's an untenable environment. The fact that Elon Musk is able to do it is because primarily he's outside the system. And I can argue that Trump is actually outside the system too. If we're going to Doge Ohio, it's going to take some people who are not in politics and who are not part of a committee within the Republican Party. Frankly, I have zero sense of faith in the Ohio Republican Party for enacting real, meaningful Doge-like change. That leads me to that conclusion. It needs to happen from the outside.
No, I got you, and it makes
Yeah,
perfect
I would
sense,
agree
too,
with that,
you know.
Jonathan. That's why we need some new blood coming in here, and that's in the Vivek Ramaswamy's area. And you're not going to get it with the current leadership in Ohio. If they haven't done it now for all the years that they've been holding office, what makes me think that they're going to do it next year or 2 years from now? They're not. You need some new blood and new thinking and new leaders in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
let's actually explore that a little bit, because there are different schools of thought on Vivek Ramaswamy, and I happen to know people who are 1, 2, or 3, either raving fans, they're neutral and not sure yet, or they're very suspicious and decided that they don't like Vivek Ramaswamy. I know all 3, and I'm going to say that if Vivek Ramaswamy were to want to come into Ohio and Doge Ohio, the only way that works is that if he has no political ambition beyond Ohio, because it's career suicide. When you go in and gut all these systems, I mean, it would be tremendously popular in Ohio, but the whole political machine, the swamp that is Columbus, and all the things like the Ohio Chamber of Commerce, if anybody out there is listening to this and you think that the Ohio Chamber of Commerce is our friend, I'm sorry, but you're sadly mistaken. They are not friends of we, the people of Ohio. They are you've listened to the shows. I'm going to give one example, and just to clarify my point here. We've had Stephanie Stock on the program a number of times talking about medical freedom, and overwhelmingly, most people want to have the ability to trust in their doctor's advice and make their own medical decisions and not have doctors' licensure threatened. The Ohio Chamber of Commerce is the biggest adversary in the state of Ohio, I believe, to that initiative. Anyway, back to Elon Musk. If Musk came into Ohio and slashed things, that would have to be one of them. That would have to be those ties between the money flow between things like the Ohio Chamber of Commerce and right across the street, our capital, and all the things like it. They need to all be examined They need to all be examined, and slashes made all throughout to those relationships and sever. I mean, we've talked about Jobs Ohio. Who knows? There are thousands of these, and Elon Musk would have to come in and make an enemy of all of those. Yes, it's true that he would have tremendous popular support, but that money machine that is Columbus, Ohio, would instantly be opposed to him. That's the dynamic.
Well, okay, so if we look at the governor's race, you've got Ramaswamy, and then you have probably Jim Trussell might throw his name in. You definitely have Dave Yost. I mean, that's what you got. So, but Ramaswamy, people are on the bandwagon for Ramaswamy because it's like, hey, there's some new face, there's some new hope, there's something. Maybe he will step in there and doge Ohio a little bit. But Ohio needs to be doged in the worst way. And I'm gonna push back on you a little bit there, Jonathan, because if you look at Florida, you look at Governor Ron DeSantis, what he did to Florida. I mean, he took a purple state and he has made it just pure red. And he has pushed back constantly. He's even talking about getting rid of property taxes. Okay, he got rid of the state income tax. He might get rid of the property taxes, which is a hot button topic right here in Ohio. Let me play this from Poleshnik because he did a really, really good talk out in Zanesville yesterday.
If they just pass a few symbolic pieces of legislation and declare victory, we all go home and they don't have to worry about this for 3 more years. But what they don't understand is that this isn't just an annoyance to the people of Ohio, and it's not just unfair. It's reached a point where the citizen cannot afford this anymore.
Now, of course, he's talking about property taxes, just so you understand. And I don't know if he's in a barn. I'm still waiting for some cow to stick his head through that gate there.
Yeah, it wasn't an unusual building.
That is the survival of Ohio, that we have to reform property tax now. And when I say reform, I don't mean cut my tax by 1%. I don't mean eliminate one kind of levy and pass another. I don't mean some hyper-technical reform where there's a bill signing with the governor and everyone smirks. I mean, I see my bill and it's 50% of what it was last year. I see my bill and it's a zero instead of thousands of dollars that I can't afford. That's reform. And unless if you're willing to deliver that kind of reform, I would say to our state reps and senators, you're not qualified. You don't know how to do this job. Let someone like Keith Davies take it, for God's sake. He actually wants to change things.
Okay, so he's becoming a great statesman. He is such a good speaker. He's becoming a great speaker. And you guys put him up there with the cows and everything like that.
Yeah, he was excellent.
I'll tell you what,
I think it went on for about 15, 20 minutes. He was, every minute, if you somebody wants to hear it, it's on Lobbyists for Citizens, and we had the privilege of recording it. And Commissioner Plechnik, or Professor Plechnik, was excellent. He was right on point.
Yeah, he is good. He is very good.
With that, with the barn look and that camera angle, with his beard grown out and he's grown his hair out, I really just want to call him like Jebediah. He's got like kind of that founding. What was that era? You know, he's got the I won't say founding fathers because
he's got the 1700s
he
look.
would take that and run with it, but like that era, he's got that look.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
But the thing with him is let me just.
They just pass a few.
The thing with him though is he's becoming a great statesman. I mean, he grabs that mic and he can hold your attention. He's becoming very good. I keep telling him he's got to run as state representative. He's got to do something. He's got to take the next step from Lake County commissioner. He's the Lake County commissioner. Take the next step. We need good, strong leadership. So I still keep pushing him for that. But real quick, Brian, you were out there. So what'd you think? Well, how did that go out there in Zanesville for that whole event?
Well, I can tell you there's probably 100 or so people, in the audience, and average age certainly was over 55, 50%, male, female, and they they mentioned the problem of the property taxes from the farmer's standpoint. A lot of farmers down there in Zanesville. And they were, very concerned, just like the people in Licking County. When we went to Licking County, they were concerned that these large tech companies are coming in and buying up the land and jacking up the prices of all the real estate, which compounds the problem, for the homeowners. All of the real estate is going up, and that's happening in beautiful Zanesville too. I that was the first time I've been down to Zanesville, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but the people were totally on his side when he. I mean, was that?
Absolutely,
they loved
clapping
hearing that,
all
right?
the time.
They loved hearing somebody speaking out like that, and that's what I said.
Right.
Your
Because
movement, you've got to keep your movement going. Don't stop.
See,
Don't stop.
There's no one at the state level really that are speaking out on behalf of the people. Now they, as Commissioner Platchnik said, they'll say some platitudes of, we're going to, he mentions about the levies, we eliminated the replacement levies, and he says, so what? That's not, putting money, in the pockets of the citizens, and because they'll just put a renewal levy on instead of calling it a replacement levy. But what happens is the state reps, state senators, if they pass something that gives, 1% reduction in property taxes, they make a big deal out of it, like they've really done something. But as you said, Jennifer Gross is telling us there's nothing going to happen significantly at the state level on the property taxes. So it is incumbent upon the people, as we get these petitions out, we want the people to sign our constitutional amendment to citizens-led initiative to eliminate the property taxes. And that's the only way we're going to get these representatives to realize we're very serious about this. I don't know if you want to talk about it, Joe, but I did send an email to every state rep, and I said, I just want to give everybody a heads up. Here's the citizens-led initiative that you're going to see more and more. People are anxious to sign it.
You got to go with it. Yeah, people are anxious to sign with it. You go with it. You get it out. What do you need? 1,000 signatures before you can get it to the Attorney General?
We'll get 2,000 or so and send that to the Attorney General.
Right.
And then he has to bless it and say, yes, it's a constitutional amendment. He then sends it off to, I guess, a ballot.
Well, he's probably going to say, "Oh, you got to tweak this or you got to tweak that."
Invariably, they're going to.
Yeah, but eventually, see, just getting the word out on that, Brian, is what is the key. Okay, just getting the word out to the state lawmakers that, hey, there's a group, there's people out there that are pushing for this, and they're not going to take no for an answer. Okay, that's
Correct.
what motivates them. If that is not there, they're not going to do anything, okay? So when Gross says, well, they're not going to do anything, that's because at the current state of affairs, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Put the heat up. Turn that heat up
absolutely
as high as it can go. You'll get some results. That's how things get done. They get done that way.
But Jonathan, earlier, Jonathan said that, and he's 100% correct, even if we eliminate the property tax and they say, well, we're going to fund the government with a sales tax, let's say 15%, 20% sales tax, that doesn't solve the problem. The problem is not the ability to generate revenue for our government. The problem is we need to curtail the spending. And that, I can give you so many examples here in Lake County, but that is the problem, that these school districts, with this revaluation, they've just got with such a money grab, an obscene amount of money. No one in Lake County gave a dime back to the citizens. And that's the dirty little secret that Representative Dave Thomas from Ashtabula said, and that is the taxing authorities do not have to collect them or accept the money that is collected from this revaluation. I heard today that even the counties didn't have to accept the revaluations. I haven't verified that yet, and I will. There's someone told me that Butler County did not accept their revaluation.
Wow.
So we'll have to, do some checking on that because we're all led to believe, well, there's nothing you can do. You can hire an appraiser and maybe you'll, get something off and they'll throw you a bone and, knock your valuation down to $5,000. You think you've won. This is all engineered. We really believe the way they value the property values, it's reverse engineered to bring in the amount of money they want.
Yeah, it's a game. It's a game. Well, I think we might be able to switch gears here. I think Rebecca has joined us. Let me just see here. Let me just make sure. But I think that looks like Rebecca Terrell. There she is. How are you?
Good. How's everybody?
Oh, great. Great to see you. Great to see you.
Good to see all
Thanks
of
for
you.
joining us.
You bet. Thanks for having me. Hello, Jonathan. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
Okay, so I'm going to play something here. This is a trailer or something that you sent to me for the John Birch Society. You, of course, are with the John Birch Society. Where are you located at? Tennessee? Is that where you're calling from?
I am. Our headquarters is in Wisconsin, actually, but I work remotely, and I'm from Elvis's hometown. Well, not hometown, but where he set up his Graceland.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so wait a minute.
Mississippi
How
River.
far away did Elvis live from where you're at?
Not far at all. Tupelo's about an hour drive, probably.
An hour's
Tupelo,
drive.
Mississippi.
I thought maybe he was right around the corner. He lived or something. Okay, so about an hour.
Oh no, Graceland's right around the corner. I mean, I could ride a bike to Graceland from where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, his home here in Memphis, where he died.
Oh,
Yeah, for those who believe he's
You're
dead.
going out on a limb saying that he's not with us anymore. I see him all the time.
I'm shocked. I'm just shocked.
Well, I do see that on Beale. Yeah, he was walking
And he-
6 feet off of Beale.
It's funny because everybody that sees Elvis, because they see him they see him about as often as they see Bigfoot. Okay,
That's
Bigfoot's
right.
been sighted everywhere.
Yeah,
But always with a shaky camera too. But Elvis, I mean, he's there. He's even performing sometimes in Vegas and stuff like that. But he's never aged. It's amazing. I mean,
never, absolutely. Well, and actually, they take great offense at being called Elvis impersonators. They're not. They call themselves Elvis tribute artists. It's ETA, because no one's impersonating. They say no one could ever replace Elvis. We're doing our performances are in tribute to the great artist who was Elvis. And they will take you to task on that if you try to say Elvis impersonator.
All right, so you have a video coming out April 22nd. Let me just play this. It's a minute long.
He was a tremendous roar. Tremendous roar.
Get the kids in the house. I said, why? He said, the pipeline has exploded.
That's an 1,800-foot, what they call the kill zone. That's lethal. If you're within that range, you will be killed.
1 liter of liquefied carbon turns into 20 cubic yards of gas in a millisecond once it reaches the atmosphere. And then you just have this bursting cloud of gas.
You translate a 9-inch into a 36-inch pipe, that kill zone is 5 miles.
We would never be able to get people to safety in time.
Okay, so that was I think that was from Mississippi, where they had an explosion take place. I also want to show you this because so that people can understand just how bad the CO2 explosions can be. This is
this is great.
now this isn't from Mississippi, but it's something similar to what took
So
place
this
in
is
Mississippi.
the one. This is the one from Mississippi.
What's that again?
Oh, okay, yeah, you mean that's from the United Kingdom, but the gentleman
United
who's
Kingdom.
talking.
So I don't have anything from Mississippi, but I think it was similar to this, just to let people see what it actually looks like. An explosion.
And I called my
Well,
mother.
remember that right there that you're viewing is slowed down. That's slow motion.
So this pipeline that blew up down here.
Well, it's still pretty impressive. Look how far it starts spreading out.
Turned on,
Right.
And
Prairie Creek Road off number 3.
what? That's a liquid too, right? That is like a
That
liquid.
is, it's a gas. It's a gas because the moment it hits air, liquefied carbon dioxide. But it's the same thing that comes out of your fire extinguisher. If you have a fire in your house,
Okay.
and you put the fire extinguisher. So it's heavier than air, and it turns immediately into a gas, but it still acts like a liquid because it hugs the ground and it flows with the contours of the land. And there's the rub. That's the problem here, because when it happened in Satartia, Mississippi, it flowed right down the valley into the town, and people started dropping.
So this stuff here, if we take a look at this here,
That's real-
all
that's real
poison,
time.
right? You inhale that, you're in bad shape, correct?
It's displacing oxygen. You can't breathe because it's displacing the oxygen in the air. And if you're on that ground story level, people who are on a second story level are safer. It's just like you would be in a flood. But this is the thing. You go to any emergency rescue crews around the country, they don't know how to handle this. You have to have external breathing apparatus and things like that. And you have to be able to grab it in a millisecond, because all of a sudden, boom! Again, this is what comes out of your fire extinguisher when you're putting a fire out at the house.
He said, "Cuz
Well,
the cop cut off."
I'm pretty
As soon
amazed
as he
at this
said
because the amount of land that this is covering already in such a short period of time, and this could go on for a long time. I mean, if you had the pipe break out in the middle of nowhere, no one's going to fix it right away, and this could just go on for like days or even weeks. Here's a different one I shot real quick. Got this off the internet, but I mean, it shows you the force.
Now that's a test from China. That's where they were testing what would happen with a rupture. And you heard how loud it was too. That's what everybody in Satartia said. It was just this, like that gentleman said, it was a tremendous roar. You have to remember the pipes you just saw were about 8 or 9 inches. The pipe in Satartia was around 9 inches. The pipes that they're planning on putting through our beautiful Midwest and Great Plains farmland are 24 inches. And yes, what you just said, it takes a long time for these pipes to empty. They can turn off shutoff valves, but you have shutoff valves every 12 miles. It's not a shutoff valve every few hundred feet or anything like that. It's shutoff valves that are very remote from one another. And yes, there's no way, because the pressure this carbon dioxide is under inside that pipe is 2,200 psi. Anybody who's ever, think about your tire wheels. Think about how much more this is. The tires on your car was what I meant to compare to.
Right.
But there's no comparison. I mean, you are talking about killing, and it's going to kill people. It's going to kill animals. It's going to kill plant life.
Mm-hmm.
Let
me just do this. You can comment on this too, just so we can get a better understanding and a clear overall picture of what the heck's going on. So
to fight against global
warming, we gotta fight against global. And you know what? I laughed when I saw this, because it's like those are nuclear power plants. So
those are cooling towers.
Yeah, they're not really emitting.
The world needs to
those are
sharply
cooling
reduce
towers. Well,
emissions.
the original picture that you showed of the nuclear plant was cooling towers, and that is pure water vapor, not ionized. It has no radiation in it. It's pure water vapor.
Exactly.
Carbon dioxide gas, which traps heat in the atmosphere.
Okay, so the big idea here is they're saying is you got to get rid of that CO2 because it traps heat in the atmosphere. It traps heat in the atmosphere.
Power plants that burn coal or other fossil fuels emit much of that CO2. But a technology called carbon capture and storage, or CCS, can keep the gas out of the environment. When fossil fuels are burned...
Okay, so now they're going to explain the process here. It seems a little
it's propaganda.
Propaganda. Yeah. I know. But let's just see what they're... Right. This is what they're putting out, so at least let's start with this. And the New York Times put this out.
Along with other...
no, it can't be propaganda.
In a carbon capture system, before going up the smoke...
So before going up the smokestack, they separate the CO2 out.
This mixture of gases is sprayed with a chemical that attaches only to the CO2.
There's some kind of a chemical, they're not very specific, some type of a chemical they're using that just magically does this.
The chemical is then heated to release the gas, producing a stream of pure carbon dioxide that's compressed and sent through a pipeline to a well. The chemical is recycled and used again and again. At the well, the CO2 is injected deep underground, where it's spread.
And there's these wells could be hundreds and hundreds of miles away, correct? I mean, they're not.
They're thousands.
Thousands.
Literally
porous
thousands.
layers of.
And then how deep do they? I know this is a drawing, so it's hard to imagine how deep. Any idea how deep they drill to let all the CO2 just go out of the pipe?
Well, and we could go into that. We could talk all hour about that too. It's way down, a mile down, but
Really?
this is the thing. They want to lay the
Impermeable
pipeline through the Great Plains at a depth of about 4 feet. Well, the freeze zone is down to 6 feet. So what happens when the pipes freeze and then rupture?
Oh, you're
And they're
in
suing
problems.
counties. They're suing counties who insist that they lay the pipes deeper, because every pipe up there is laid deeper than 6 feet because that's the freeze zone. And so they're suing counties over that too. It's absolutely unbelievable the things that the farmers are going through in the Midwest right now against these pipelines. And we know they're coming to a neighborhood near you too, because the Department of Energy has already published a report saying they are planning 96,000 miles of this pipeline.
Wow.
They've given us the map, and there is not one state that isn't affected. So, some people would say, well, this is just a Great Plains issue. It is today, not tomorrow, not for the people in Mississippi.
Okay, so
either.
people are being harassed. Here's that other minute-long video you sent me about people being harassed. Let's just watch this real quick here. Give us an idea.
When we had the meeting with the rep from Summit, he said to us, either you cooperate with us now, or when we get eminent domain, we'll put the pipeline wherever we want on your land.
And Dan Lederman with Summit came up to me and he said, I'm going to tell you one thing, Suzanne. If you plan on putting the depth deeper than 4 feet, we will sue you, we will sue the rest of the commission, and we will sue your county.
Summit comes into our commissioners' chambers. They've been rude, they've been pushy, they've lied to us.
Their whole approach has been to intimidate people.
Not the nicest people. Okay,
Absolutely.
so this is your documentary. It's going to be released. That will be released April 22nd.
Which is Earth Day.
Which is Earth
That's
Day.
why we chose. That's why we chose it.
No, that's a good thing.
It
Yeah,
was
so
Lennon's
they're
birthday, I
harassing
think.
they're harassing the farmers, like all these landowners. They're harassing them. They don't want the pipe deeper than 4 feet. What would be the reason? Why don't they want the pipe deeper than 4 feet?
Just expense. I mean, what they're getting, the only incentive they have for putting these in is just literally billions of dollars in government subsidies, federal subsidies that they stand to gain from putting this pipeline in. There's absolutely no market incentive for them. For these pipelines, there is market incentive for capturing carbon dioxide from industrial facilities, and it has been done since the 1990s in a process called EOR, which is enhanced oil recovery. Oil and gas companies will capture their own emissions and condense that carbon dioxide, and it's used as fracking fluid. And most people today know what fracking fluid is. You inject it into otherwise deplete oil and gas wells to extract more of those natural resources from the wells. But that's usually from a facility that's right there, very, very close to, an oil or gas well. No, this is going through thousands of miles, and I'll tell you what, there's a more nefarious agenda here, because and then this all comes from the United Nations. All of these plans come from the United Nations, and they're being implemented at the federal, state, and local levels all across the world. But right now, of course, we're focusing on us, on our own backyards, and they've done it in a very clever way. It's very piecemeal. Like, for instance, in Iowa, several years ago, they passed through in the state that any company that has a petition pipeline to put in a pipeline in the state, any pipeline, if you have a petition before the state Public Services Commission, that company can go on a private landowner's property and survey without that landowner's permission. How did they get that passed through? It's because we're asleep. We're not watching. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. And it's like y'all were talking before I came on, I was listening to the show, and, the property taxes. This is the way they do it. It's piecemeal. And if you go to every place across the country, they have done things like this. It's plans it's either called a comprehensive plan or a smart growth or something like that. Go to your own city, your own county commission. They're going to already have them in place. And it's because these NGOs come in with money from international bankers. This is all coming from the UN, and they've already got all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and they have all these plans, and they're implementing these things piecemeal, just bit by bit by bit by bit. And all of a sudden one day we're going to wake up and realize my property's not mine anymore. Because
that's the nefarious thing there that you're referring to. They want to actually do a land grab. They want to take that property from the farmers and stuff, and so that's what because it really, like you said, I think that it has to be government funded. These factories are not going to do this unless the government is giving them money so that they can accomplish it. They're not going to do it on their own. They'd be losing too much money. But,
they would.
And the other thing, I'm going to give it over to these guys for a second, too, unless we have some questions. But the other thing I think is hilarious is they want to pump it in so they can get oil out of the ground, like you were saying.
Well, they say that they're not going to do that. They say that there's a difference between enhanced oil recovery, yes, is what they've been using carbon capture for. Now, in order to get the full federal subsidy, you have to promise that you're just going to sequester the carbon underground. You're not going to use it for anything else. We have to remove the carbon so it can never be released into the atmosphere again, so we won't warm. Well, no, and they always tell us follow the science. Of course, if you actually follow the science, you'll see that the historic record proves that increases in temperature have always preceded, not followed, increases in atmospheric carbon dioxide. And we also have to point out too, anything like, for instance, they're capturing emissions at ethanol plants throughout the Great Plains, right? They're capturing emissions from facilities that are processing corn from these same farmers. The carbon from the corn that is emitted from those ethanol facilities, it's biogenic. The corn that's growing right now is going to take that carbon dioxide back up as plant food. So you don't have any add to the atmospheric carbon dioxide, right? But all that aside, so we've got the 2021 infrastructure bill and the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, and there were literally billions of dollars to increase this carbon dioxide, to go for carbon dioxide pipelines, but you had to promise that you were going to bury it and not use it in enhanced oil recovery. Well, isn't it interesting that this big carbon capture pipeline company that's threatening the farmers across the Great Plains right now is called Summit Carbon Solutions, and the owner is a man named Bruce Rastetter. And one of his main investors is Harold Ham, who owns Continental Resources, and curiously, there are a lot of his oil and gas wells very close to the amalgamation area they have planned in North Dakota. The amalgamation area is the storage area for all of this carbon dioxide. They're going to store it and save Mother Earth, right?
That's a good point. Wherever they're going to be depositing this CO2, there's follow that, because there's a reason for it. Right. And like you said, he's got an oil field there, and that kind of helps to get the oil out of the ground, all this CO2 and stuff. So, yeah.
It's very curious.
Yeah, very curious. Yep.
Right. So,
yeah,
there
I
are
do
so many.
have I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say there are so many levels of this story because there are so many problems with it. But yeah, please go right ahead.
I was wondering if a pipe does burst. There's no cleanup of the CO2. It just goes out into the world and causes its damage. Like an oil pipeline, if it bursts, there would be the ability to clean up the oil. Is that correct, or am I missing something with this
No, you're
CO2.
exactly right. Well, it's dry ice. And I don't know if y'all have any pictures that we could show the audience of the aftermath of the Satartia incident. It was February 2020, and the whole landscape, it was just covered with this white, it was the remains of dry ice, but an incredible amount of dry ice. I mean, the vegetation was gone. Yeah, it's not the same as a cleanup. Now, I will say the one thing about when the farmer was talking about the kill zone around the rupture site, it's not just a clean circle, because again, this gas acts like a fluid. It flows with the contours of the land, and it's going to flow in the same way that water would. So the concentrations of it are going to be in different places. That's what we don't have any studies about this kind of thing. They're not exercising caution, the caution that you would exercise with, say, an oil pipeline or any of these other pipelines. There are no rules. The federal government has been regulating pipeline through it's the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration. They don't have specific rules for carbon dioxide pipelines, and yet the federal government's funding
the current federal government here with Trump, because I could see under a Biden they'd be putting up these pipes and going full tilt and no stopping. We're under Kamala Harris or whatever, but Trump, I can't believe Trump's going to buy into this.
Unfortunately, every single administration, including Trump's, since Bill Clinton, has upped these subsidies. Biden was the most recent administration to up the subsidies again, and that was when he upped them so much that it really became advantageous for these companies to pursue it. But Trump
has to be
a
lot of subsidy, or it's just not going to be beneficial for those companies to do anything. You got to get Doge. We got to get Doge.
But watch out.
Elon out of bed right now and tell him.
No, watch out there, because Elon Musk is funding. He has a $100 million prize for the person who can come up with the best carbon capture technology.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. It's called xprize.com. Jonathan and I were talking about it the other day. Jonathan, you were about to say something. What were you going to say?
Yeah, that's actually something I didn't know about Elon Musk prior to our conversation. For anybody that doesn't know this, in addition to this podcast, I run Unwoke.academy, and Rebecca was kind enough to be my guest a few days ago for a lengthier version of this conversation. So if you enjoy this conversation, well, first of all, thank Rebecca Terrell. Thank you for joining us. And find Unwoke.academy on Tuesday. A lengthier version of this conversation is coming out. But a few things occur to me that I want to point out and ask a question. The first is, so one of the things for people in Ohio specifically, Rebecca and I got into a conversation about NOACA. That's come up several times during our episodes of this podcast. That has immediate ties to everything that we're talking about here. So look for ties in with NOACA. That's that Cleveland-based metropolitan planning organization that has a climate action plan for the 5 counties surrounding Cleveland, Ohio. But 2 things. One is, every time I learn more about this stuff and the massive amount of planning that's gone into this nefarious bad thing, I'm reminded of an amazing book that I read that I recommend everybody go out there and find. It's called Tombstone, written by a man named Yang Jixing. It's actually, he was in the Communist Party in China during the famine that killed 53 million Chinese. It sounds strange, I'm sure, but the similarities to what the Communist Party was doing that led to the starvation and taking over farmland, it's uncanny. It's unbelievable. You can thank me later. Go find a copy of that book, Tombstone by Yang Jixing. It's a precursor. It's as if we could go back to the 1950s and predict exactly this conversation.
Hang on one second, because I'll go right back to you. But I did buy this book because last time you were talking about this, it was months ago. You said buy it, and I had to buy it. So this is it, Tombstone, and it's
awesome.
It's very lengthy, And I have not read it. I mean, I started reading it. It is very interesting, but it's
Joe.
just incredible. But the thing I do want to say is, it is frightening when you look at communism and what happened in China and the starvation of the people and the records. This guy did all the record bookkeeping and everything on it, journalized it all. It's frightening, massively frightening. But go ahead. I'll get back to you.
Yeah. So this actually is a question, and this occurred to me actually after our conversation a few days ago, Jessica. What about the idea of theft? Here's what I mean by that. I actually happen to live in a place. I've moved out into the country so that I can start doing some of my own farming, grow some of my own foods. I think a lot of people are growingly curious about this type of lifestyle. And I'm enjoying the heck out of it so far. And one of the things that I've learned about is composting and how important it is to add nutrients to the ground. Plants, the soil is incredibly important when you want to grow things. And so nitrogen and all sorts of other nutrients that grow plants are fundamental, and learning how to assess that and add nutrients is fundamentally valuable. It seems to me there's an argument to be made that this whole pipeline fiasco and the greenie meanies, as I like to call them, are actually stealing, because CO2 is plant food. Good heavens.
Yes.
It's plant food. They are stealing plant food. The stuff that, as you pointed out, it comes from the soil, it grows into the plant, and then as plants die and compost, and they're putting the CO2 back into the soil again. If we take all that over time and just continue to pipe that somewhere else, there's nothing left for plants to grow. So if that's true, you have two things here. One is theft, and one is the antithesis of all the things that the greenie meanies say that they want, which is a green earth.
Right.
Thoughts?
And of course, we know that documentary made years ago called The Greening of Planet Earth. And if anybody hasn't seen that, you need to look it up. It's just it's this cheerleader documentary for carbon dioxide, talking exactly what you're talking about. But we have to remember they're lying. They're not really wanting to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is the boogeyman that they have to blame us, because they want to get rid of us. It's us they want to get rid of, and we're the carbon producers. Carbon is going to kill us all, right? No, they know this is a lie. This is a land grab. And actually, back to y'all's point that you both brought up in the book Tombstone. If people don't have time to read the big tomb that is Tombstone, I actually just recently wrote a cover story for the New American Magazine. They retitled it. It's called Engineering the Price of Food. My original title on the article was Hunger Games, because I trace back the history of governments using famine to control people. And we don't have to speculate. This is not conspiracy theory. I trace the whole history of it, and now we have, in their own words, they have the 30 by 30 plan, which is already implemented in the United States. It was Biden's executive order called, very nefariously, America the Beautiful. It is planned control by the federal government of 30% of land and waterways by 2030. And then they have to follow that up. They're going to be implementing the 50 by 50 plan, which is controlling 50% of the land and waterways by 2050. And this is, again, all coming straight out of the United Nations. You can look it up on all of their own websites. Don't take my word for it. If you think I have a tin hat on and I'm a conspiracy theorist and all this, go straight. It's straight from the horse's mouth. And they're planning on taking that land away from us, confining us in 15-minute cities. And again, that's their verbiage, not mine. I'm simply the messenger. I'm saying what they have planned for us in their own words. We are going to be confined in these basically open air prisons, where we are only allowed to use our central bank digital currency in areas for which it is programmed. If you go outside those areas, you won't have any money, you won't have any means. And this is actually what they have planned for us. It's all part of transhumanism and the fourth industrial revolution. And I know we don't have time to get into all of those things, but these are not science fiction. I do think that they have been conditioning us through silly science fiction to accept these things and to believe, oh, man really can injure Mother Earth with carbon dioxide and all of these, crazy things that they have us believing now.
Well, 2030, what you're saying there is not that very far away. It's
not that far.
Yeah,
right.
And so you're saying like 30% land grab in the U.S. That's crazy. But but that is what is the underlying. That's why the CO2 pipelines in your documentary, in which you're saying, correct, is a massive land grab, a start of trying to. And now.
It is.
How do they accumulate that land, though? If I'm a farmer and I got 100 acres, I know the pipe is going through some of my field and everything like that. I mean, how do they grab my land then?
The easements are interesting. You have to read the easement because, you would think, okay, just lay the pipe and then farm over it. No big deal, right? Mm-hmm. That's not what the easement says. It's a 50-foot easement. It's got 25 feet on each side of it, so it adds up to a 100-foot easement. The farmer is not allowed to do anything on it. The farmer is held liable for anything that happens, like a rupture, like something that causes a rupture, and the farmer will be held liable. The company won't. The company that put the pipeline in won't. And there are all these restrictions, like you can't use firearms on your property when you have this pipeline because it could cause a rupture, right? Start thinking about.
Okay,
this.
So they start taking away your freedoms based on this stupid pipeline. I see. Yeah. So
right. So you have to read the fine print in the easement, but the easements are just anybody who would sign one of these easements is just they obviously didn't read it.
Yeah. I think I had a clip. I can't find it right now, but there was from the John Birch Society, and he was saying just that like 75% of the people had signed, the farmers had signed the easement or whatever, and now they regret it, and they're hoping that the other 25% who didn't sign it can do something about it.
Now, where's the 75%? Which was that a particular state? Where did they say that?
Let me see if I can find it here. Just give me a minute or two.
Because there is a lot. A lot of the farmers dispute those numbers. They're like, no, we know our neighbors. We know who signed, and it doesn't add up. To them. I mean, they haven't actually interviewed every single person along the way, but they're wondering if those numbers are actually legit. But we do know
something that I did take out. If you want to just,
that's another.
Do you know this guy?
Yes,
do you know him? He's from
That's
JBS.
right.
Okay.
That's Bill Hahn.
I talked to him one time. I asked him if he read every one of those books behind him.
Easements, or have their land.
He evaded the question.
Confiscated through eminent domain. All to bury pipeline that would carry highly pressurized carbon dioxide captured from more than 30 ethanol and fertilizer plants to deposit into old oil wells in Illinois and North Dakota. Summit Carbon Solutions has said it has signed easements with up to 75% of landowners along its proposed route.
There's where I got the 75%, unless he's lying.
Okay.
Unless he's lying. But here's what else he said real quick.
Some of these are from property owners that feel they have been forced into signing, and that they hope that their neighbors will put up enough of a fight that the pipeline will not go through.
You always got to depend on the neighbors because you screwed up. I mean, we preach this all the time. It's up to the individual. It's up to us to make this happen.
Well, Summit has. He said Summit has said that about the 75%.
Yeah, he said 70.
We question that.
He said 75%. Yeah.
Well, but then you look like at the amalgamation area, we do know, because this is another one of those examples of the state has come in and surreptitiously passed this law that nobody was paying any attention to. And now you realize, we shouldn't have let that happen, where they said if 60% in the amalgamation area in North Dakota, the storage area, if 60% of the landowners in that storage area sign that the other 40% have no say, it passes.
Wow. Okay.
So that's a huge percentage. But get this, you would not believe the number of people in the government who happen to own land, curiously enough, in that amalgamation area and stand to make money off of it. So there are all these conflicts of interest. It's ridiculous. We cover as much as we can, and there's just not time in the documentary to cover all of it, because again, this this topic has so many layers. I mean, we've talked tonight, Jonathan. Wouldn't you agree? We've talked tonight about stuff that you and I didn't even get to, and you and I talked for an hour.
True, and I want to bring up
Right.
another one. I think to me this is key relative to where we stand with however many people have signed this document, and that is the notion of a rescind letter. A rescind letter, if I understand correctly, I'm not a lawyer, but there is an element or a possibility of a group of people saying effectively that they signed under duress. They had no intention of signing, therefore they are retracting their name from a legal document. There is a legal process to do that, and I'm tremendously curious about any people who may have signed who might now regret it and might want to sign on a rescind letter.
Well, like you, I'm not an attorney either. I do not know the answer to that question, but I know who could answer it, and that's Brian Jordy with Domino Law. He is the attorney who's representing a great number of the farmers who are along these planned pipeline routes. He's a fantastic person, and I'd encourage you, I can put y'all in touch with him. As a matter of fact, he is a wonderful guest on podcasts like this and can explain those details.
Let me go
Yeah,
to
if somebody's
Brian.
not pushing that, I think they should be.
Brian,
Yes.
are there any pipelines out there in Lake County? Any pipelines, CO2 pipelines?
Not that I'm aware of, but Rebecca mentioned the 30 by 30, and that's the second time I've heard that in a couple weeks. I was speaking to a young man that was a legislative aide for a congresswoman out in, I think it was Wyoming, and he said that really what the environmentalists want is they want the land to go back into the no people, just animals and just land. They want to get rid of the people. Is that, did I summarize that okay? I mean, that's what they want. They want all land, I don't know, west of the Mississippi or something to just be...
Right. It absolutely is.
We'll be back to hunter-gatherers then.
Well, actually, it's a depopulationist agenda, and again, I go into this in the cover story that I wrote and show you the history of how all of this has happened and occurred. For instance, I mean, our farm bill that's updated every 5 years. You know, it started in the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration, if you can believe that or not, the Agricultural Adjustment Act, and when he made it impossible for farmers to produce here and started making us dependent on foreign imports. And it is absolutely the only reason we can't feed ourselves and export to all and feed the entire world. It's not because our farmers can't produce, it's because of our federal government. You know, and yes, and they're trying to, how many of us accepted the label of non-essential during COVID? You know? Isn't that the same thing as saying useless eaters? You know, isn't that akin to that?
Yeah.
It has very Nazi-esque.
And bringing back
overtones.
memories of COVID in that, with our governor, we were the first state to mask up. Ohio was the first state to mask up. We were the first state that had
Ramaswamy
to
was
go
on
6
that.
feet from everybody, and all this other BS stuff. And but we only have till 2026 with the current governor, and we'll get somebody else in there, thank God. But anyhow, yeah, COVID was just, like you said, to make us feel like we are dispensable. But let me ask you this here, and if anybody else has a question, what can we do, or what can those farmers do, or what's the solution to this?
There is a solution, and that is what is so great about this. Now, I'll answer that in two parts. Number one, you have to look at your own city council or county commission and find that comprehensive plan that I promise you have it. All of us do. And find that, get a copy of it, pick it apart. You'll find the keywords, the sustainable development and all this stuff. Then make friends with your county commissioners and your city councilmen and show them, hey, they've brought this in. And don't go in there screaming, oh, it's a United Nations conspiracy. It really is Agenda 21. At the local level, they call it Local Agenda 21. But when President Bill Clinton, after George Bush signed us on to all of this in 1992, to Agenda 21, The Clinton administration then expanded it. He had a workforce, and they said, okay, how are we going to implement this? And they published the Millennium Papers. You can look all this up. This is their words, not mine. They said, we're not going to call it Local Agenda 21 because that'll get all the crazy conspiracy theory crackpots coming out. So we're going to call it Comprehensive Plans, or Smart Growth, or Smart Planning. And they've done it. They've done it to us. But if you can go educate your councilmen about that, they will be able to see, okay, this is what's happening. They're trying to take our land away from us. You can be their trusted advisor about this, or you might even end up running for, your county commissioner, your city council. The other thing to consider about this is, they know what they're doing is wrong. That's why they're doing it behind our backs. So all you have to do to break up a conspiracy is to flip the light on, and show people. It doesn't take a college degree to understand all of this stuff. You can read a few things. We have plenty of information on our website at the John Birch Society, which is jbs.org. Also our magazine, which is The New American, and that is thenewamerican.com. You can find my recent article that tells you all about this and explains how to find these things and get them turned around. We also have an actual, specifically about the carbon capture pipelines. Steve Kinkle is a now former county commissioner from Iowa, and he gave us a little 12-step program, which I think is funny. It gives you 12 steps of what you should do at your county level to prepare right now to get those ordinances in place that protect you against these carbon dioxide pipelines that they do have planned already for every state, and they already have the map of it too.
Every state, huh? That's
every state.
That's kind of scary. Hey, you got any final thoughts here, Brian, for our guest?
I'd like. I'll definitely check out the New American on that because since we do have close ties to Lake County commissioners, it sounds to me like this may be through NOACA, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, but maybe Jonathan knows something about that.
It is.
But can you imagine the Amish farmers having to deal with that?
That's a good point. Yeah, the Amish.
And then the point of losing your property. That's really what they're doing with the property taxes. They're taking away our property slowly but surely.
Yeah, one way or another, they want to use a land grab. Yep. Any last thoughts, Jonathan?
Well, rounding out what Brian just said, Rebecca may not be aware that Ohio, pretty much across the board, is just enduring a roughly 30% increase in property taxes, and it's a nightmare. People are losing their homes.
Wow.
I made some notes here. Hold on, I'm going through. Oh, yeah. Here's my closing thought. There are so many more things that I could throw in there, but I know we're running out of time. And that is for anybody out there that's listening, keying in on the credibility of the things that Rebecca is saying. Rebecca's with the John Birch Society. I learned something yesterday at an event where a great speaker was presenting from the John Birch Society. I learned something new about the organization. Think for a moment about all the newspaper and media publications out there. Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Washington Post, you name it. Think about all of those for a moment. I don't believe any of them have existed without a retraction. The John Birch Society has been publishing information thoroughly vetted since, I want to say, I'm paraphrasing from memory from yesterday's presentation, something like 1963 or something, without a single retraction ever. They have never gone back in a publication and been proven wrong on anything that they've published. So I think that speaks volumes to the credibility of both John Birch Society and the thorough work that I see having gone into this documentary. I do hope that you go and see it, find this thing. I'm actually in my area. I'm planning a watch party for April 22nd at a local facility. If you're near me, find me. Maybe we'll all get together and watch this thing. But wherever you are, watch the documentary, Unearthing CO2 Pipelines, and thank you so much to Rebecca and the film crew, the people that took on this task of bringing it to our attention. We greatly appreciate it.
So that's very kind of you, Jonathan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again. So we really appreciate you coming on. So the documentary is called Unearthing the CO2 Pipeline, I believe it's called, right? Through John Birch
That's
Society.
Correct.
So, and if they want to watch that, they could probably go to the John Birch Society website. I know it's not out yet till April 22nd, but after that, they could probably just go to the website. Would they get a link? Or they could buy it. They could buy it. It's probably, going to be a...
Right there. We actually have, we formed a little studio called Stand Your Ground Studio. And so you can go to standyourground.watch. I know that that's not normal. It's not a .com or a .net or a .org. It's standyourground.watch. And but you can also just email us. You can reach out on the website. If your viewers want to email me, it's rterrell@thenewamerican.com, and they can get in touch with me personally through that. So yes, you're going to be able to have a link. They'll have a link on our website, jbs.org. So a lot of different ways you can get to that. But we'll be having a lot of those watch parties, like the one Jonathan's planning. And thank you very much for that, Jonathan. That's kind of you.
Yeah, that's great. And just in closing, so you're like a reporter, then I would say, I'm not going out on a limb there, for John
I am.
Birch.
My title is senior editor. I think that
senior
has more
editor.
to do with
Okay.
the gray hair than...
Okay, so senior editor. I love the John Birch Society. I just did my subscription. I have it coming in again. I had stopped for a while, but it's great reading. The New American,
Thank
that
you.
magazine is excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Highly recommend it, 100%. So
We like it.
It meets your
We wear our
approval.
tin hats.
Yeah. No, you're not tin hats. Anybody calling you a tin hat is the person who should be scrutinized and all that.
Well, these days tin hats are cool. Conspiracy is the new cool ever since COVID and the stolen election. So I know that those are no words. I shouldn't have said them, should I?
We believe 100% in the COVID-19, and so we will have to. No, we don't believe in that garbage. Of course not. Hey, thanks a lot, Rebecca. Appreciate it. You guys do excellent
Thank you,
work.
Rebecca.
Thank you very much.
Thank
God
you. God bless all of you.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll call it a night here tonight. Thanks again for everybody, and we'll talk real soon. Okay.
Thanks, Joe. So long, Jonathan.
Good night. Have a
Bye,
good night.
everyone.